Hello, my beautiful people, wherever you are in the world or whatever you're up to. I hope that you're watching this, my latest video. Anyway, thank you so much for coming back to the Warren's Team Talk YouTube channel. And I really hope that you enjoy this episode. And what I've got to you today is the latest and brand spanking new, shiny and exciting latest episode of England's most successful football team. This is the one that everyone is talking about, and the debates are raging up and down the country, and it's keeping everyone entertained. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this week's episode. And this week I'm going to be looking at Southampton, Cardiff City and Blackpool. And there's some really good stories there this week, I think. So anyway, without further ado, let's get on with the show. Okay, everyone. So we've clambered aboard the Warren's Team Talk bus, and today our big, shiny, clean and beautiful bus is going to take us all the way up to the northwest of England, where we're going to go and visit Blackpool. Now, Blackpool, who are also known as the Seasiders, came 31st in the Warren's Team Talk table, and they accumulated 1,645 points. Now, Blackpool are also known as the Seasiders, the Pool, or the Tangerines, were formed in 1887. And were invited into the Football League Second Division, Tier 2, in 1896. They did fail re-election in 1899, but had their Football League membership reinstated the following year. Now, during the 4 years between 1919 and 1923, Blackpool achieved three fourth-place finishes in 1919-1920, the 1920-21 season and the 1923-24 season in the Second Division Tier 2. But unfortunately, on none of these occasions did they manage to win promotion. Then, in the 1929-30 season, the Seasiders successfully won their first ever league title when they won the Second Division Tier 2 title, and scoring 98 goals in the process. And they also won promotion to the First Division Tier 1 that year. Though they were relegated after 3 seasons in the First Division Tier 1. So that was obviously must have been a bit disappointing for them. Anyway, then in the 1934-35 season, they secured a 4th place finish in the Second Division Tier 2, but again were not promoted. But they were again promoted to the First Division Tier 1 in the 1936-37 season, when they finished second in the Second Division Tier 2. The club then entered somewhat of a somewhat golden period under the stewardship of long-term manager Joe Smith, when they lost the 1948 and 1951 FA Cup finals before winning the competition in 1953. They lost the 1948 FA Cup final when they lost 4-2 to Manchester United at Wembley Stadium in front of a crowd of 99,000 people. And then they lost the 1951 FA Cup final when they again lost, but this time 2-0 to Newcastle United, and again at Wembley Stadium in front of 100,000 people. Also in the 1950-51 season, they secured a 3rd place finish in the First Division Tier 1. Then 2 years later, in the 1952-53 season, Blackpool again reached the FA Cup final, where they took Bolton Wanderers on in the so-called Matthews Cup final. And there you have it. There's a picture of Blackpool celebrating their victory in that cup final. It was, as I say, it was nicknamed the Matthews final, when Blackpool managed to win 4-3, overturning a 3-1 deficit in the closing stages of the game, because it's believed that Stanley Matthews played a pivotal role in them being able to win the trophy that year. During that season, 4 Blackpool players also played in the England team, which famously lost 6-3 against Hungary at Wembley Stadium. And then on the 12th of October, 1953, Blackpool lost 3-1 to Arsenal in the FA Charity Shield at Highbury in front of a crowd of 39,853. Then in the 1955-56 season, Blackpool finished as runners-up to Manchester United in the First Division, Tier 1. And then also in 1956, Stanley Matthews was the inaugural recipient of the Ballon d'Or Award, which was an award for the player who was deemed to have performed the best for the previous season throughout Europe. Then the following season, in 1956-57, the Seasiders secured a 4th place finish in the First Division, Tier 1. And then Blackpool were relegated out of the First Division, Tier 2 in 1967. And then the following season, 1967-68, they finished 3rd in Tier 2 and then missed out on promotion by goal average on 0.21 of a goal. They then followed this up in the 1969-70 season by finishing 2nd in the 2nd Division, Tier 2, and then won promotion. They then dropped into the 4th tier after suffering relegations in 1978 and 1981, but then gained promotion again in 1984-85, when they finished 2nd in the 4th Division, Tier 4. Then between 1987 and 2019, the club was owned by the Oyston family, and then towards the end of the Oyston family ownership of the club, its supporters became so disillusioned with the club's ownership that they boycotted the club's home games. And the team were forced to play in virtually empty stadiums, which was it's quite interesting, really, when you think about what's going on at the moment. That they had unknown to them, they were giving the club a glimpse of what was to come with the COVID situation and whatever. I remember watching them play Arsenal in an FA Cup tie. I think it was the 3rd round. And the only people inside the ground were a handful of Arsenal supporters. But some of the issues that the clubs were complaining about was the fact that the owners were asset stripping the club and so on and so forth. And that was why they were boycotting the games. Anyway, moving on. In 1991-92, the Seasiders finished 4th in the 4th Division, Tier 4, and then won promotion by beating Scunthorpe United 4-3 on penalties after a game ended 1-1 in the playoff final. Then 4 years later, in the 1995-96 season, Blackpool secured a 3rd place finish in the 2nd Division, Tier 3, but unfortunately they were not promoted after they lost 3-2 on aggregate to Bradford City in the playoff semi-finals. In the 2000-2001 season, the club finished 7th in the 3rd Division, Tier 4, and won promotion to the 2nd Division, Tier 3, after beating Leyton Orient 4-2 in the playoff final. Then, in the 2001-2002 season, Blackpool beat Cambridge 4-1 at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff in front of a crowd of 20,287 to win the EFL trophy. Then following up on that, 2 years later, in the 2003-2004 season, Blackpool defeated Southampton United 2-0 at the Millennium Stadium again in Cardiff in front of a crowd this time of 34,000 people. Then again, 3 years later in 2006-2007, the Seasiders secured a 3rd place finish in League One, Tier 3, and won promotion by beating Yeovil Town 2-0 in the playoff final. This was then followed up 3 years later in the 2009-2010 season, when Blackpool finished 6th in the Championship Tier 2 and managed to win promotion to the Premier League Tier 1 by beating Cardiff City 3-2 in the playoff final. Sadly, though, for the Seasiders, they only managed to spend 1 season in the Premier League and this was under the stewardship of Ian Holloway, and he then later suffered a double relegation in League 2 by 2016. Now, I remember Ian Holloway being interviewed before Blackpool were promoted, after they were promoted to the Premier League. And one of the questions they asked him was, how are you going to promote and prepare your team for life in the Premier League? And he said, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to spend the summer getting them to making sure that they're able to play ticky-tack football like the Spanish national team. And then that way we'll have absolutely no worries about staying in the Premier League, will we? Which I found quite funny, really, to be honest. But there you go, that's Ian Holloway all over. He's a real comedian, that fella. Anyway, so then the following season in 2016-17, the club finished 7th in League 2, Tier 4, and they won promotion to League 1, Tier 3, by defeating Exeter City 2-1 in the playoff final. Then in June 2019, Simon Sadler, a 49-year-old Blackpool-born businessman, bought a 96.2% share in the club, completely removing the Oyston family from any involvement. So that must have been a big relief to its supporters because, like I say, the Oyston family were incredibly unpopular with the Blackpool supporters, and quite rightly so. I mean, they didn't, sounds like to me from what I've read and heard from the Blackpool supporters, they didn't do anything positive for the club whatsoever. And all they managed to do was just asset strip the club. So, yeah, they're not the sort of people that I want to see running a football club, in my opinion. I don't think people who do stuff like that should be allowed anywhere near football, but that's just my opinion. Okay, so we've finally managed to get back from Blackpool. That was a beautiful trip. We saw the Blackpool Tower, went up and down that, and went and saw our friends at Blackpool Football Club. And that was an interesting and entertaining story. I think you'll agree. Anyway, so we're now going down to the south coast, and we're going to go to another seaside town in Southampton. Well, I'm not sure it's a seaside town, but there you go. Anyway, we're off to see Southampton. They finished 30th in the Warren's team talk table, and they managed to get 1,705 points. Now, Southampton are nicknamed as the Saints, and have been nicknamed the Saints since its inception in 1885, due to the fact that its history is as a church football team, and they were founded by St Mary's Church of England Young Men's Association, and they played in red and white shirts, which they obviously still do to this day. The Saints used as their anthem the popular sports tune, jazz tune, and hymn When the Saints Go Marching In. And because of their name, they haven't even had to change the lyrics for the song. So, yeah, it's quite a famous one, really. Anyway, the club reached their first FA Cup final in 1900 when they lost, unfortunately, 4-0 to Bury at Crystal Palace in front of 68,945 crowd. And then they returned to the FA Cup final for the second time in their history 2 years later, when again, unfortunately, they lost to Sheffield United 2-1 after a replay. The first game ended a 1-1 draw, and both of these games were played at Crystal Palace. The first game had a crowd of 76,000, and the replay had a crowd of just over 33,000 people. Reaching these finals gave Southampton recognition, even internationally, as it is alleged that in 1909, an Athletic Bilbao representative who played for Atletico Madrid travelled to Southampton and purchased 50 Southampton shirts, which were then shared between Athletic Bilbao and Athletic Madrid. And apparently this is why both these clubs have playing red and white striped shirts. This early Southampton popularity is also the reason why both Spanish clubs, as I already mentioned, shirts and crests share the red and white colours, and they still use this livery to this day. However, it would be a further 20 years before the club enjoyed any further success, when in the 1920-21 season, they finished second in the third division, and the next season, in the 1921-22 season, the club won the third division South Tier 3 title on goal difference from Plymouth Argyle. Then 8 years later, in the 1928-29 season, the Saints secured a fourth place finish in the second division Tier 2, but unfortunately they didn't win promotion. Now, a barren spell then followed of 19 years, which obviously included the enforced break because of World War II, until the 1947-48 season, when the spell, when they flirted with promotion to the first division Tier 1, but never actually managed to pull it off. So this is the league table for the 1947-48 season. And as you can see, Southampton finished third that year, behind Newcastle and Birmingham, but they were 4 points adrift of the two promotion places, one for the champions and then one for the runners-up. Now, they so if we go, and then the next season, in the 1948-49 season, this time they narrowly missed out to West Bromwich Albion and Fulham, They missed out by they're winning the title by 2 points from Fulham and missing out on second place, which would have given them promotion by 1 point to West Bromwich Albion. And then finally, in the 1949-50 season, they, as you can see, they finished fourth in the second division, behind Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United and Tottenham Hotspur. Now, as you can see by looking at the table, the teams who finished second, third and fourth, Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United, along with Southampton, all finished on 52 points. And they had to be separated on goal average. Now, as you can see, the margins of separation were minuscule. As you can see, the Sheffield Wednesday had a goal average of 1.396. Sheffield United had a goal average of 1.388, and Southampton had a goal average of 1.333. So, that must have caused quite a lot of animosity in Sheffield to go up by that slimmest of margins of difference between Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United. I mean, the relationship with the two clubs isn't great, obviously, but that must have really added salt to the wounds, I can imagine, for the Sheffield United fans. Then in the 1954-55 season, the Saints finished third in the third division South, Tier 3, and then followed this up 2 years later in the 56-57 season by finishing fourth in the third division South, Tier 3. And on both occasions, again, they failed to win promotion. Then finally, in the 1959-60 season, the club won the third division Tier 3 title by 2 points from Norwich City. And during that season, they only lost one home league game all season. And then after a further 5 years, in the 1964-65 season, Southampton secured a fourth place finish in the second division Tier 2, but did not win a promotion. But the season was notable for the Saints that the club's by the fact that the club's forward, George O'Brien, was the league's top goal scorer with 34 goals. They then followed this up, though, the following season in 1965-66 by finishing second in the second division Tier 2 and won promotion by 1 point from Coventry City. 10 years later, in the 1975-76 season, Southampton reached their first ever FA Cup final in 74 years, when this time they were successful by defeating the famous Manchester United at Wembley Stadium, thanks to a goal from Bobby Stokes in the 83rd minute. And this game was played in front of a crowd of 99,115 people. This FA Cup final was notable for me because it's the first one that I can remember watching on TV as a small 9-year-old boy. At the start of the following season, 1976-77 season, the Saints lost the annual curtain raiser FA Charity Shield charity match 1-0 when John Toshak, who went on to manage Real Madrid, scored the winning goal. The club then followed these two appearances at Wembley Stadium up in the 1977-78 season by finishing second in the second division Tier 2 and won promotion to the first division Tier 1. and missed out on the title by 1 point to Bolton Wanderers. Then, in the 1978-79 season, the Saints again returned to Wembley Stadium for the third time in 3 years, when they played Brian Clough and Peter Taylor's Nottingham Forest side. But sadly for the Saints on this occasion, they lost 3-2 after being 1-0 up at half-time, thanks to a goal from David Peach in the 16th minute. Then, in 1980, Laurie McMenemy made his biggest signing, capturing the European Football of the Year, Kevin Keegan. Laurie McMenemy at the time was the Southampton manager, and he was a bit of a larger-than-life character, to be honest, in my opinion. Anyway, so he signed Kevin Keegan, which was deemed a bit of a coup, obviously, because he was European Football of the Year. And however, despite the fact that Keegan's Southampton career only lasted 2 years, the Saints fielded an attractive side, also containing Alan Ball, the prolific goalscorer Ted McDougall, Phil Boyer, Mick Shannon, and Charlie George. And in the 1980-81 season, they managed to score 76 goals and finishing in 6th place, which at the time was their highest ever league finish. By the end of the 1990-91 season, at this stage, a key player in the Southampton lineup was Guernsey-born attacking midfielder stroke striker Matthew Letitia, who broke into the first team in the 1986-87 season. And also around this time, Alan Shearer broke into the team, and at the age of 17 in April 1988, he scored a hat-trick against Arsenal in a league match. Then Shearer was eventually sold to Jack Walker's Blackpool Rovers for a national record of more than £3 million. And 5 years later, in the 1983-84 season, the Saints went on to achieve their highest ever league finish, whilst being managed by Laurie McMenemy, when they secured a 2nd place finish in the First Division Tier 1 and missed on the title by 3 points to champions Liverpool. This team contained Peter Shilton, the England goalkeeper, Nick Holmes, David Armstrong, striker Steve Moran, and quick winger Danny Wallace. Now, that season, the club also reached the semi-final of the FA Cup, losing 1-0 to Everton at Arsenal's Highbury Stadium. However, despite this period of success, the club would not enjoy any further success until the 2002-2003 season, when they lost 1-0 to Arsenal in the FA Cup final at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff in front of a crowd of over 73,000 people. Then 7 years later, in the 2009-2010 season, the Saints again returned to Wembley Stadium, and on this occasion, they ran out comfortable 4-1 winners in the EFL Cup final against Carlisle United, with a team that contained current West Ham player Mikel Antonio and current Brighton and Hove Albion player and former fans' favourite at Liverpool, Adam Lallana. This success was then followed up in the 2010-2011 season, when Southampton secured a 2nd place finish in League One, Tier 3, to win promotion to the Championship, Tier 2. Then the following season, in 2011-12, the following season, 2011-12, the club finished 2nd in the Championship to win promotion to the FA Premier League. 6 years later, in the 2016-17 season, Southampton enjoyed their final piece of success to date when the Red Devils got their revenge, i.e. Red Devils, if you don't know who that is, that's Manchester United, got their revenge for their FA Cup final defeat of 41 years earlier when Southampton lost 3-2 to them in the Football League Cup final. Okay, so we've come back from Southampton and now we're back out on the road again and we're going to Wales. We're going to go and visit our friends over at Cardiff City and let's go and find out what they've got to say and find out more about them. Anyway, so Cardiff City finished 29th in the Warren's Team Talk table and they managed to accumulate 1,715 points. Now, Cardiff City, who are nicknamed the Bluebirds, were formed in 1899 as Riverside AFC, and the club changed its name to Cardiff City in 1908 and joined the English Football League in 1920. With the exception of a short period in the club's history, the team have always played in home colours of blue and white. And that's happened since 1908. This is one of the reasons they have their name, the Bluebirds. And if you can see, the club crest has even got a bluebird and it's in it. There is like a red dragon down the bottom, but it is a bluebird, which is the prominent aspect of that club crest. And this is the fact that they've always had these blue and white kit is why they got the name of the Bluebirds. Anyway, when they, at one point, like I say, at one period during the history, and this was quite recently, they changed their kits from a blue and white kit to a red kit. And when this change happened, it caused so much controversy and upset amongst the club supporters that they decided to revert back to their traditional blue and white kit. So thankfully the club's ownership and power brokers saw sense and did that. Anyway, the club's record appearance holder is Billy Hardy, who made 590 appearances in a 20-year playing spell with Cardiff. And their record goal scorer is a chap by the name of Len Davis, who scored 179 goals for the club. The Bluebirds achieved their first success in the 1920-21 season when they finished second in the second division tier 2, which was their first ever season in the English Football League. And they missed out on the title that season by finishing runners-up to Birmingham City on goal average by 0.235 of a goal, after both clubs finished the season on 58 points. They then followed this up with promotion the very next season in the 1921-22 season by finishing fourth in the First Division Tier 1, and then 2 years later in the 1923-24 season, they achieved a second place finish in the First Division Tier 1, and they missed out on the title to Huddersfield Town on goal average by a mere 0.024 of a goal. This second place finish in the First Division Tier 1 would prove to be Cardiff City's highest ever English League position so far. The following season, in the 1924-25 season, the Bluebirds would reach their first FA Cup final, but they would lose to Sheffield United 1-0 at Wembley Stadium in front of a crowd of over 91,000 people. Then, 2 years later, in the 1926-27 season, Cardiff would return to Wembley Stadium for the FA Cup final, and on this occasion they would make history as they become the first and so far only club from outside of England to win the FA Cup when they beat Arsenal 1-0 in front of a crowd of over 91,000 people. Now, if we look at the pictures that you can see on screen now, you're going to notice that in the pictures, in the top right-hand corner, there's a guy running around the pitch or walking down the steps at Wembley Stadium with the cuddling the FA Cup, and then another guy drinking from the FA Cup in the time-honoured tradition in the bottom right-hand corner. And then in the middle picture, there is a picture of Cardiff's winning goal that day against Arsenal. And then in the left-hand part of the screen, you can see a number of people looking like they're running on the pitch. I'm guessing that's Cardiff City fans celebrating their victory. So, and then the next picture shows the Cardiff City team won the FA Cup that day and became the only side in the competition's history who won the FA Cup as a club from outside of England. Now, carrying on, at the start of the next season in 1927-28, the club won the FA Charity Shield when they defeated Corinthians 2-1 at Stamford Bridge. The club then went until the 1946-47 season before it enjoyed any further English League success when they won the 3rd Division South Tier 3 title, whilst enjoying a home season where they only slipped up by drawing 3 games at home all season. And then also that season, they won promotion to the second division Tier 2. Now, 2 years later, in the 1948-49 season, the club finished 4th in the second division Tier 2, but did not win promotion. Then, after another 2 years, in the 1950-51 season, the Bluebirds finished 3rd in the second division Tier 2 and missed out on promotion by 2 points to Manchester City. This disappointment was followed up in the 1951-52 season by the Bluebirds securing a 2nd place finish in the second division Tier 2. And then they also that season missed out on the title by a mere 2 points to Sheffield Wednesday. But then this disappointment, though, was softened somewhat by them winning promotion to the First Division Tier 1. And also that season, they finished above 3rd place Birmingham City on goal average by 0.137 of a goal. And they also lost just 1 home league game all season. Then 8 years later, in the 1950-60 season, the club secured another 2nd place finish in the second division Tier 2 and again narrowly missed out on the title, this time by a single point to Aston Villa. A barren spell then followed without any English League success until they achieved a 3rd place finish in the second division Tier 2. in the 1970-71 season. But again, unfortunately, they did not win promotion that season. The club then secured 2 second-place finishes in the third division, Tier 3, in 1975-76 and the 1982-83 season. And on both occasions, they won promotion to the second division, Tier 2. Then 5 years later, in the 1987-88 season, they secured a second place finish in the fourth division, Tier 4, and this secured promotion for the club to the third division, Tier 3. Then 5 years later, in the 1992-93 season, Cardiff City won their first and to date only Tier 4 title to win promotion to the second division, Tier 3. A further 6 years then passed until the 1998-99 season, when the Bluebirds finished third in the third division, Tier 4, and won promotion to the second division, Tier 2. The Bluebirds then repeated defeat 2 years later when they secured a third place finish in the third division, Tier 4. And then the next season, 2001-2002 season, the club finished fourth in the second division, Tier 3, but they did not win promotion as they lost 3-2 on aggregate to Stoke City in the playoff semi-finals. In the 2007-2008 season, the Bluebirds returned to Wembley again for the FA Cup final, but on this occasion, they lost 1-0 to Portsmouth in front of a crowd of over 89,000 people in attendance. The next season, in the 2002-2003 season, Cardiff City finished sixth in the second division, Tier 3, but they managed to win promotion to the first division, Tier 2, after they beat Queen's Park Rangers 1-0 after extra time in the playoff final. Then 7 years later, in the 2009-2010 season, and a year later in the 2010-2011 season, the Bluebirds finished fourth in the Championship Tier 2, but unfortunately they did not win promotion on either occasion, as they lost in the playoff finals in both seasons. In 2009-10, 3-2 to Blackpool, and in 2010-11, 4-2 to bitter rivals Swansea City. Now, that defeat to their bitter rivals, Swansea, I'm sure went down like a lead balloon with the Bluebirds fans, because I know how intense the derby matches are between these two clubs. For example, I did hear a story from a work colleague of mine that on one occasion Cardiff City and Swansea played a match, and it seems that there were more police in attendance at the game than supporters, as the games have a terrible reputation for outbreaks of violence between the two groups of supporters. Anyway, so moving on, let's not discuss any more negative aspects than we need to. Then the following season, in 2011-12, Cardiff City again returned to Wembley Stadium for the Football League Cup final when they lost 3-2 on penalties to Liverpool after the game ending in a 2-2 draw after extra time. This disappointment was softened somewhat though the following year in the 2012-13 season when the club won the Championship Tier 2 title to win promotion to the FA Premier League. Then 5 years later, in the 2017-18 season, the Bluebirds won another automatic promotion to the FA Premier League by finishing second in the Championship Tier 2. Sadly, though, the club were relegated back to the Championship Tier 2 the very next season. So that's a sad end to the story for our friends at Cardiff. But I hope you enjoyed that one because I think it's an interesting story, especially the bit about them being the only club from outside of England to ever have won the FA Cup. Well, everyone, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show, and that I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope that you found all the stories really interesting. I certainly enjoyed some of the stories this week. Also, please remember to put a like on the video. And if you're new to my channel, thanks very much for stopping by and looking at my video. I do appreciate it a lot, and I'm very, very grateful that you've done that. Anyway, so welcome to the Warren's Team Talk and becoming part of the Warren's Team Talk family. Anyway, thanks again for watching the video, and if you haven't done so already, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel by clicking on the subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, and share the content around with any friends or family or colleagues that you have who think that you might be interested in it. Anyway, I hope you all have a good week. Please look after yourselves and stay healthy and well. And I look forward to seeing you all next week when I'll be back for the next episode of the Warren's Teams Talk, England's most successful football club, part 15. Anyway, so take care, my friends, and have a great time this week. I love you all. Take care. Bye.